What is up, guys? It's Jimbo here, and what? Oh no, do that. What is up, guys? It's Jimbo here, and welcome to my updated Nature Caster build for Season 1. This is going to cover you from 50 to 70. That's going to be the link in the description, but pretty much the aspects stay the same, and then it'll just be an expanded Paragon board, which I'll cover in a future video. But the Paragon board that you'll see in the description in the build will take you all the way up until you have roughly 108 points, which is how much you will have by the time you reach level 70. And then I think you have some extras from your Paragon as well. But this build is super strong. You can see right now I'm on Sacred Tier or World Tier 3. I'm doing a Tier 16 dungeon, and I am 11 levels below. I did the Capstone Dungeon at level 59, and I also did a Tier 18, I think it was, where the enemies were 71. And then I did jump up into World Tier 4, and it did obviously slow down quite a bit, purely because I am like 16 levels behind stuff. So yeah, but let's jump into the aspects first, then we'll go through the skill tree, then we'll go through the Paragon board, and I'll go through some overall tips with the build, some shortcomings, and what you can expect from this build. Okay, so let's go through my gear. Now, unfortunately, one of the pieces of gear I actually dismantled because I jumped up into World Tier 4, and it was to do with the pants, but I'll talk about what aspect that you can get on here anyway. But I have already started doing some stuff, and I've got some ancestral gear ready to go that I'm going to be putting onto me so I can start grinding through. But let's talk about the aspects first, because the key ones that we need to talk about are the ones that are on our rings and amulet, and then we also have one on our gloves. So we'll start off with our gloves, which is Aftershock. This allows you to summon an additional landslide for free that hits for 12% additional damage per hit. This is very good because you're able to use this with Subterranean and also with just regular landslide. And it also means that when you get this online, you don't need necessarily to have the spirit all the time at full, because you will end up running out of spirit with this build. But spirit isn't necessarily what you need. It's a lot of cooldowns and stuff, and the way that you'll be generating your damage will be with a basic attack and also with landslide. So that's going to be the first one that you want to go through. We'll go through them in order just to make it a little bit easier. Because we are using a basic skill within Storm Strike, we're going to be wanting to have aspect of Might here, which allows us to get 20% damage reduction on top of the damage reduction we already have from Storm Strike. This is very, very good. I'll go through stats and stuff in just a moment. Earthguard is very, very good here. This could also be swapped out for Disobedience if you really wanted to, but the reason this is so good is because when you crowd control an enemy, you're able to get the amount of your barrier all the way up to 100%, and basically when you cast another Earthen Bulwark, you get double the barrier. So to give you an example, you will have, at the moment I have 2 ranks, which means I'm going to have a barrier that is 820. This means that when I crowd control enemies with Earthguard, which I'm doing a lot with a lot of enemies because of the way this build works, I am able to then get an additional 820 barrier. So I have a 1600 barrier on top of my armor, on top of my life. So yeah, and also we're generating Fortify a lot in this build, so you're very, very strong, which is also what we'll talk about in just a moment. Just talked about Aftershock. Obviously here, you want to make sure that you have aspect of the Mending Stone on your pants, purely because the duration of Earthen Bulwark goes up for an additional 6 seconds, so it helps with the cooldown. But here's the thing, because we're using Earth skills, we are able to replenish the active barrier. So every time it gets hit, as long as we're killing a bunch of enemies, we're able to pretty much do, 199. We kill like maybe 3 or 4 enemies. That's a full barrier all the way up, and we're constantly able to stay alive. So that's what you want on your pants. On the legs, now here I have Symbiotic purely because it helps the build. This is like a statement of what you need. I have swapped it around onto the helmet in the Endgame version of the build, but in the one down below, I definitely recommend that you go with Might, symbiotic here. Essentially, when you activate Nature's Fury, which we'll be doing a lot, we're able to reduce the cooldown to by 4 seconds, which means that when you activate this, it's basically when you get a non-ultimate skill. So say you get the proc from Landslide, and you get the proc to go off, and you have a cooldown for Earthen Bulwark, it drops it down to 10 seconds of a cooldown, or it could be 8 down to 4, purely because of where it goes, which is very, very good. And then also we have, Petrify doesn't lose this, purely because Petrify is an ultimate skill, but we get cooldown reduction on our Hurricane, and we get it down on our Earthen Bulwark, which is going to help with survivability a lot. Poison Creeper doesn't fall into this category, even though it has the element to it. For the weapon setup, before we go through the amulet and things, you're going to want to have retaliation here, or on your ring. I'm still messing around. I put Crash Stone, I think, in the build link. And the reason why I go with either a 2-hand or a 1-hand is down to lucky hit chance, spirit cost reduction, cooldown reduction, and ultimately, I think I'll end up going with a 2-hand to ramp my damage up, because I feel like I don't really need the spirit cost reduction as much. I do, however, need the cooldown reduction, and that's why the cooldown reduction on a totem is very, very good. You do lose damage, but you do get a bunch of cooldown reduction, so that could be helpful here. You can pretty much, I think if you get all the cooldown reduction, get this down to 12 or 10 seconds, which is very good for survivability. But yeah, here I have retaliation. You can even use Crash Stone, which I have right here. I had a max roll of this drop on a ring. So yeah, you can put basically retaliation and Crash Stone are interchangeable. Then we have Subterranean, which has been fixed now since the previous version of the build. It's nuts. Essentially, this deals, you deal 90% more damage to enemies that are poisoned. And also, because we've changed the skill tree, those are going to be pretty much guaranteed crits a lot of the time. And especially when you have Aftershock active, you're able to do 1 round, and then it goes back the opposite way to be able to do damage. We've already been through that, and then this is the key thing for pumping out your damage on the build. Casting a Storm skill with your, will grant your Earth skill critical strike damage, and casting an Earth skill increases critical strike chance for Storm skills. The second one isn't as much as what we want, but what we'll basically be doing is we hit with Storm Strike, we go into Landslide. Hit with Storm Strike, go into Landslide, and that is the rotation. And then whenever you have Poison Creeper up, you pop that, and you're continually doing this loop, which means that you're always going to have a 49% modifier. You could swap this onto a ring, or you could put retaliation onto the ring. Still got to do some testing with that. So yeah, but this is 100% what you need for the build. As for the totem, there's a couple of options. You can go for accelerating if you really want to. I had a totem when I was in the video that I was using. I haven't got it on here because this is an ancestral piece. You can also go with conceited, which you do additional damage for how much barrier you have. Or you could go with something else, like something completely different, maybe even basic attack speed, like rapid aspect. You can put this on here, but yeah. It's definitely interchangeable. You don't even need it at times if you have a 2-hand as well. Likewise, there's going to be a couple of different changes, and I'll talk about those in the endgame variant of the build, because I want to move Symbiotic to the helmet to talk about what we'll have on our boots. Spirit Boons, Wariness is a lock here, probably only because we get reduced damage from elites. Avian Wrath, 30% multiplier to critical strike damage. This is fantastic. I have Energize on here purely because I want to generate some more spirit until I get a little bit later on. It means I can let me make the build go a little bit faster. You can also use Calamity as well to be able to get extended duration with Petrify, and also with Lightning, Cataclysm, I should say. You definitely want Calm Before the Storm. This helps with the reduction for Petrify. And then 100% you need Pack Leader for your Spirit Boon. I would get this first, purely because this means that critical strikes have a chance to reset the cooldown. If you hit a bunch of critical strikes, you go pop, it resets itself. Pop, resets itself. The most I've had is 4 resets in one go. And that is with Petrify. And this is a lot better at dealing with like actual packs of enemies rather than on a boss, purely because you don't get the added crowd control effect. But when you crowd control a bunch of enemies, pack leader is going to be fantastic for that. Let's go through the skill tree though. Now, I've messed around with the skill tree a lot, but ultimately I have landed on Storm Strike again. I tried out Earth Spike, I've tried out Wind Shear, and none of them really feel the same, like compared to the distance that you have, and sometimes being in engagements with Storm Strike. So yeah, you're going to get 3 points in here, going all the way up to get that vulnerable. You're going to get 5 points into Landslide, alongside Enhanced Landslide and Primal Landslide. Now, I did talk to a couple of people in the comments talking about Terra motes getting consumed with this build. Now, here's the thing. When you stun enemies with Petrify, or you stun, immobilize enemies with Poison Creeper, and also Storm Strike when you immobilize them, you are going to be building up Terra motes. I've used this without Subterranean. I've also used it with just the extended duration for Poison Creeper, and sometimes you can get up to like 30 to 40 Terra motes if you're not using the Subterranean, which means Landslide will always guarantee crit, but it kind of doesn't, like, you're never going to get through all of those motes, even if you get the resets of Poison Creeper. So I just kept it on here anyway, because you do get consistent crits with my testing that I've done, which is very, very good. Obviously, we've changed this around a little bit since the previous build. I have 3 points into Predatory Instinct now, which gives me a +6 modifier to my critical strike chance. Wild Impulses I would leave until last, as always, with the leveling. But definitely get Wild Impulses. It gives you that boost of damage. Nothing has changed here when it comes to this skill tree, but we have 1 point in Ancestral Fortitude, 3 into Vigilance, Earthen Bulwark and Enhanced Earthen Bulwark, and then Fortify. The Fortify is key here over the Barrier, purely because you're able to use Retaliation and get more Fortify. 18% of your base life. The more life that you pump, the better this effect gets for your Retaliation. Now, I have 3 ranks in 1 rank in Poison Creeper, and then my Poison Creeper gets 3 ranks from my items. You don't necessarily need them here, because for some reason, the way that this interacts with it, either you do a little bit more damage with the initial burst of Poison Creeper, but I would recommend that you go with potentially some other stats on your helmet, because that's where you're going to get Poison Creeper stacks. But even if you get 3 extra ranks in it, it's not really that bad at the end of the day. We have Enhanced Poison Creeper, and this is where the build differs. Brutal Poison Creeper. In earlier levels, the Ferocious Poison Creeper is better because it allows you to have a couple of additional seconds to activate your Landslide. Or if you don't have Subterranean active, this is also good. When you do have this, though, this is amazing. Whenever you strangle an enemy with or immobilize them, you're going to get a 20% critical strike chance. This is amazing, and I think it's going to be the best thing that you want on the build. No extra points here. You could potentially put points in Nature's Reach, but you don't need them. Hurricane into Savage Hurricane for damage reduction. You don't need the vulnerable once you unlock it on the Paragon board. The damage reduction is very, very key. We have 1 point into Neurotoxin and 3 points into Envenom. Now, this is multiplicative. It isn't plus as they say it is. It is multiplicative, but I don't like to push the damage on this or like get extra ranks in it. Yes, it's good for extra additional critical damage, but they have to be poisoned, and you want to focus on just pumping out your damage with critical strikes. That's why we have 3 ranks in Crushing Earth. This allows us to do a ×20 modifier whenever we are using it, and this goes up obviously because I've got an additional rank in it. 2 points into Safeguard, which you can eventually drop these 2 points when you get a unique potentially, and the build kind of changes around and stuff. But I will be uploading an eventual version of this when I get that unique of like an ultimate version, like if you really want to push this as far as it can go. 3 points into Stone Guard. This increases your overall damage, another modifier. And then a Safeguard is just good for extra Fortify. And then we come down into the ultimate section. I'll talk about this in just a moment, but we want Nature's Fury. This, as I've explained it before, bounces between, if you use Hurricane, it summons a boulder, which is very, very nice. If you use Earthen Bulwark, it procs Cyclone Armor. Landslide procs Lightning Storm and Tornado, which is also very good. And then Storm Strike also does Earth Spike, which is very good, which gives it that little bit of range as well. And then in the ultimate area, when you cast Petrify, you have a chance to proc Cataclysm. Likewise, if you proc Cataclysm, you have a chance to proc Petrify. The only issue is it's all down to how you want to play. I am taking Petrify for the additional critical strike chance. Yes, there is one of the malignant hearts that we're using that sucks the enemies in, which is very helpful when more sucks with Cataclysm. But this is better because it helps give you the stun for Terramotes, which means more crits. You may not get as many pulls in, but if this actually activates with Nature's Fury, then you are in business. So yeah, we're going to get all the way through there, and then 3 points into Defiance, 3 points in Natural Disaster, 3 points in Resonance, and 3 points into Circle of Life. The Paragon board, I'm literally going to explain this in your first 10 levels or so, 20 levels or so here. You're literally going to go all the way up, get yourself Exploit to begin with. Then you're going to come through and get yourself Earth and Devastation, and also this is the board. You're going to go with Human. Then when you go further up, you're basically going to be going in 4 different directions, but essentially you'll be going up first to get yourself Heightened Malice, and I think that's where it is now. Also have another couple of points going this way, which takes us into the Ancestral Guidance board, which gets us the additional passive there, or the legendary node that you'll need. But I'm not going to explain it too much because it is in the description. Just follow that all the way up to level 70, and then I have a full fleshed out board for 70 and beyond when I get there, because I want to showcase the build in later tiers. Lastly, stat priorities. In the helmet, cooldown reduction, spirit cost reduction, cooldown reduction, maximum life, total armor, ranks the poison creeper, and then also I think you get life on kill as well. Damage reduction across the board on your pants and also with your Earth Guard. Damage reduction more fortified, close, distant, poison enemies that you're damaged against. Ranks to your landslide. Lucky hit chance is so key in this build. Critical strike chance, and then attack speed is also great on the gloves. On the totem, I'm going to talk about this the same as well. Cooldown reduction, lucky hit chance, critical strike chance, and also spirit cost reduction as well. You can look at the full list in the description. On the boots, damage reduction while injured, spirit cost reduction, and then there's movement speed, and then I think you can get movement speed after killing an elite. On your weapons, core skill damage, critical strike with earth skills, damage to poison enemies is quite good, core skill damage, I've got them all in the description there. On your amulet, the crushing earth passive is fantastic because it increases that times modifier when you are doing damage with earth skills, or any of the other ones that are very good in the skill tree, i.e. resonance is quite good as well, more of them in there. Ups this as well as a modifier, which is very good. Also damage reduction as well is good on here, cooldown reduction, spirit cost reduction. I don't know if you can get lucky hit chance on your amulet, but on the rings, critical strike chance, lucky hit chance, critical strike with earth skills, and vulnerable damage, or maximum life. Entirely up to you with that third stat, but that's going to be what you want there. Sorry, this is a little bit wordy, but let's jump into the last part of the build. But before we do that, you 100% want the Devious Heart that pulls enemies in when you activate your super or your ultimate ability. This will allow you to pop your poison creeper on top of enemies and do a bunch of damage. You are going to want to have the Wrathful Heart that allows you to cycle through some stuff, which is very good. But we will probably be trying to get Barber in the future to be able to maximize the stupid amount of crit damage that we are doing. And then I also recommend that you get the Brutal Heart that allows you to generate health while you have a barrier, which means you're also healing while you have Earth and Bulwark active. But let's talk about my final thoughts and some tips for playing the build. In the footage you see behind me, this is in the Capstone Dungeon. I'm currently 11 levels lower, and I am surviving. It is a little bit of a challenge, obviously, because I'm 11 levels lower. I shouldn't be going in at that specific rank. It's very tough in World Tier 4. But the main core concept of the build is going into an encounter, get your fortify up. You can actually proc earthen bulwark to start generating yourself some fortify. Then when you get into anything, you can either hit enemies with your petrify to begin with, pull them all together, drop poison creeper on top of them, and will absolutely shred everything. And then if you've done that, when it pulls the enemies in with petrify, 1, you are popping it with the poison creeper, and then 2, you can then use your landslide to do additional damage. I wanted to showcase this as well, but this is me going up against Elias, also 10 levels under, and I relatively found it easy. It was actually crazy how much he fell over. The other cool thing is if you go into a boss fight and there's a lot of enemies around, if you crowd control them and then hit them with Storm Strike and build up a few terror motes, don't use your poison creeper on the actual boss. Use your landslide, because you'll get big bursts of critical damage as well. So if you hit them with Storm Strike first, or you pop Hurricane, then you hit them with landslide, you're going to do a bunch of damage, and then also be really survivable. And also if you use petrify as well, this will also increase your critical strike chance against bosses, or damage that you do against them, which is why here I was using petrify on the boss rather than using cataclysm. But either one of them, it all depends on how you feel. I like the extra stun because it keeps them stunned for longer when they get pulled in, so they can't hit you back, which means that you can survive a lot easier as well. But hopefully this video has been helpful. If it has and you enjoy the build, stay tuned for the next one. Like, comment, and subscribe as always. We are probably at 10k or almost at 10k by the time this video is there. So yeah, thank you very much for all of that with the support on the videos. And this has been Jimbo, and I'll see you guys next time.